Beneath the bustling streets of Paris, under the weight of history, art and romance, lies a second city, a city of bones. 6 million skeletons stacked in perfect symmetry, an empire of the dead, hidden right beneath the city of light. Most people above have no idea that as they sip coffee at a cafe or stroll past Notre Dame, there's a sea of skulls just meters below them. This isn't fiction. This is the Catacombs of Paris. A labyrinth so vast and ancient, even the people who built it barely understood how deep it went. Tonight, we descend into the darkness to uncover the twisted story of how Paris became both a cradle of beauty and a grave for the forgotten. In the 1700s, Paris was thriving. Philosophers debated enlightenment, painters redefined beauty, and revolution simmered in the air. But beneath that progress lay rot. Literally, the cemeteries were overflowing. The worst offender was Les Innocents Cemetery, right in the heart of the city. It had been used since the 12th century, and by the 1700s it was packed. Bodies weren't buried 6 feet deep. They were stacked in layers, sometimes 20 or 30 corpses high. Gravediggers would toss bones aside to make room for new bodies. The ground had turned into a spongy mass of decaying flesh. Contemporary accounts describe an unbearable stench, thick, sweet and nauseating. Nearby residents couldn't open their windows in summer. Bakers complained that their bread absorbed the odor of death. And then came the breaking point. In 1780, the wall of a basement neighboring Les Innocents literally collapsed, unleashing a wave of decomposing corpses and cemetery muck into the property. Imagine living in 18th century Paris and waking up to that. The city had a crisis on its hands. Something had to be done, fast. But where could they possibly put all those bodies? Underneath Paris lay the answer, though no one had intended to find it. Centuries earlier, the city had been built with limestone mined from underground quarries. Every great Parisian monument, from Notre Dame to the Louvre, was carved from this stone. These quarries formed a sprawling maze beneath the city. By the 1700s, many were abandoned, unstable, and dangerously close to collapse. There were stories of entire streets caving in without warning, swallowed whole by the soft earth. One of the worst incidents happened in 1774, when the ground beneath Rue d'Enfer, the street of hell, fittingly, opened up, devouring everything above it. The authorities needed to fix the collapsing ground and the overflowing cemeteries. So they came up with a grimly efficient plan. Use the tunnels of the dead to solve the problem of the living. In 1786, under the direction of Charles Axel Guillaumeau, the Inspector General of Quarries, the quarries were consecrated as a final resting place. That year, a new kind of funeral procession began to appear in Paris. After midnight, black-covered wagons rolled silently through the streets, escorted by priests chanting the office of the dead. Night after night they carried bones, millions of them, from the city cemeteries to their new home below. The transfer lasted 12 years. Inside the tunnels, workers stacked the bones carefully, skulls and femurs arranged in neat walls, while other remains were piled behind them like filler. They created patterns, symbols and designs, turning the catacombs into a morbid work of art. Visitors today can still see plaques marking where each cemetery's bones came from, a grim index of death. Above the entrance, carved into stone, are the words, "Arrête, c'est ici l'Empire de la Mort." Stop, this is the Empire of Death. And indeed, that's exactly what it became. By the early 1800s, the catacombs had become more than a burial site. They were an object of fascination and fear. In 1809, they were open to limited public visits. Writers, artists, and nobles descended into the underworld, guided by torchlight, marveling at the eerie beauty of it all. Romantics saw it as a place of meditation on mortality, a space where death was transformed into art. Some visitors claimed to hear whispers echoing through the corridors. Others described a strange sense of calm, as if the millions of dead were watching but not hostile. But not everyone treated the catacombs with reverence. By the 19th century, it became fashionable among Paris's elite to throw secret parties underground. Imagine chandeliers, champagne, live orchestras, all surrounded by walls of skulls. They called it dining with death. And during the Second World War, the catacombs became a hidden battleground. The French resistance used them to move secretly through the city, avoiding Nazi patrols. But the Nazis themselves also set up a bunker down there, deep beneath the Lycée Montaigne school. Two opposing forces, operating in the same subterranean maze. A literal war beneath a war. After the war, the tunnels fell quiet again, but not for long. By the late 20th century, explorers known as cataphiles began sneaking into forbidden sections of the catacombs. They crawled through narrow passageways, discovered ancient quarry markings, and even built underground societies. In 2004, police officers on a training exercise stumbled upon something shocking: a fully equipped underground movie theater, with seats, screens, a bar, and even electricity. When they returned days later, everything was gone. Only a note remained. Ne cherchez pas. Don't search. The deeper tunnels are illegal to enter, and for good reason. There are hundreds of kilometers of passages, many uncharted. Even experienced explorers have gotten lost. One of the most chilling modern legends comes from 1980s footage found deep underground. A man's camera was discovered abandoned, its light flickering. He appeared disoriented, breathing heavily, wandering deeper into the tunnels. The video ends abruptly. No one knows who he was, or if he ever made it out. Skeptics call it a hoax. But ask any cataphile, and they'll tell you people do disappear down there. Today, a small section of the catacombs, about 1.5 kilometers, is open to the public. Millions of tourists walk through it every year, often unaware that what they're seeing is just the tiniest corner of the underground labyrinth. The rest remains sealed off, silent, dark, and full of secrets. So next time you walk the streets of Paris, remember what lies beneath your feet. 6 million stories, 6 million lives. A cathedral of bones, built to keep the living safe, but still haunted by the ghosts of a city that couldn't escape its own dead. Because no matter how bright the lights of Paris shine, there will always be shadows beneath them. Would you dare to walk the empire of death? If you enjoyed this dive into the darker side of history, don't forget to subscribe, because the past is never really buried.